Hey guys, welcome back to another build guide. Today we're going to be going over a Cold Shadow Rapid Fire build. This build has pretty good clear, but where it really shines is its boss damage. This setup absolutely melts bosses. It is a bit on the glass cannon side, so you do have to be pretty careful with your positioning when you're doing dungeons. So it is a pretty active playstyle, but still a ton of fun to play. I'll be going over both the dungeon setup and the bossing setup. Although even with the dungeon setup, it does have really good boss damage. You don't need to change much. We'll still talk about that. As normal, in this video, we'll go over the skills, skill tree, gear, vampiric powers, and the Paragon Boards. Quick thing before we get into the build, we're just about to hit 2k subs, and I wanted to thank you guys for the support. So for the month of November, I do want to set a sub goal of 3k subs. If we hit 3k by the end of November, I'll do some platinum giveaways in the Discord server. Link to join the server will be in the description. So like, sub, and share. I appreciate the love. With that out of the way, let's get into the build. First up, we have the skills and playstyle. For skills, we're using Cold Imbue, Dash, Rapid Fire, Shadow Imbue, Shadow Clone, and Puncture with the specialization combo points. One thing with Rapid Fire is its clear really isn't the best. However, by using Godslayer's Crown and the Mastery passive Victimize, Rapid Fire starts to clear pretty well. With Godslayer's Crown, Cold Imbue becomes our grouping skill. When there's a pack of elites, Cold Imbued Rapid Fire will instantly freeze one of the elites, pulling them all together to be wiped out with Victimize. Shadow Imbue is mainly just to apply a damage multi to our non-physical attacks, which helps out with bosses, but also helps with clear a bit. Shadow Clone is super strong, having another set of arrows being fired that can also proc Victimize, gives some insane damage, and really helps with clear and boss damage. As for the specialization, I was debating on using Preparation to have Shadow Clone up more often, but apparently the T100 combo point bug isn't going to be patched this season, so T100 with Condemnation is going to be best in slot for any rogue build where your core skill is your main damage. Combo points increases the damage of Rapid Fire with each point, and it also makes it shoot another arrow. So with a high primary resource T100, you can shoot up to 28 arrows with one cast, not including the extra we get from Cunning Stratagem. So with this setup, we get to shoot up around 35 arrows with one cast that all hit extremely hard, proccing Victimize, and with Shadow Clone, we double that. Now for the skill tree. So 1 point into Puncture with Fundamental Puncture, maxing out Rapid Fire, picking up Advanced Rapid Fire to apply a crit multi to our attacks for 5 seconds after evading, and we are going to be evading a lot, so this will be up most of the time. 3 into Stutter Step, 3 into Sturdy, 3 into Weapon Mastery, 1 point into Dash, picking up Enhanced Dash to apply a crit multi for any enemy we dash through. 1 point into Dark Shroud and picking up Subverting Dark Shroud for some movement speed. You could go countering if you want the extra crit chance, but to me, the extra movement speed felt better when running through dungeons. 2 into Exploit, 3 into Malice, 1 into Shadow Imbuement, picking up Mixed Shadow Imbuement to apply that non-physical damage multi for 8 seconds. 3 into Precision Imbuement, 1 into Cold, picking up Mixed Cold Imbuement, which just helps when we're grouping all the elites, just gives us some extra damage there. 3 into Frigid Finesse, maxing out the Shadow Clone tree, and we're picking up all these lucky hit nodes. Innervation is where we get our energy sustain, and then Alchemist Fortune for non-fizz, lucky hit, and second win. Then we're going to pick up Adrenaline Rush, only 1 point there, 3 into Haste, and then wrapping it all up by picking up Victimize. So the reason why I decided to go with Victimize instead of like Precision or Close Quarters is because when it procs on a cast of Victimize, it procs for every arrow shot. And since we're shooting upwards of 35 arrows, that's going to be a lot of damage. And the damage scales with Vulnerable. So in game, I have about a 440% bonus on it, giving a little more than double damage when it procs. So pair that with Shadow Clone, which also procs it, and you're doing some insane damage. On top of its splash damage to help with clear, it makes Rapid Fire a pretty strong skill to use. Next up, we have our gear and aspects. For the helmet, as mentioned earlier, we're using Godslayer's Crown. This paired with Rapid Fire, Victimize, and Cold Imbue makes the Rapid Fire's clear really strong and gives us a 60% damage multi against them for 3 seconds. Having some life and cooldown is also a big plus here. For the chestplate, since we're using quite a few uniques, we want to get at least 3 resistance rolls followed by an armor percent roll, and we're putting Umbro's aspect here. As we have a lot of lucky hit chance and all of our attacking skills are marksman skills, we have all of our shadows up most of the time, giving us either extra crit chance or movement speed depending on what you prefer. For your gloves, go for ranks 2 Rapid Fire, Crit Chance, Lucky Hit Chance, and Attack Speed with the Rapid aspect to help build up those combo points faster. For the pants, going with T100 Will. At first, I did want to stay away from using the T100 Will combo points bug, because I didn't want to make build guides around something that might be patched. But since it's not going to be patched for the rest of the season, might as well make builds around it since it can be best in slot. It also gives us a damage multiplier after becoming unstoppable, and with one of the Vampiric Powers, Metamorphosis, we have that buff up most of the time. And for the boots, I decided to go with the Flicker Step boots to have Shadow Clone up far more often. You could go for some legendary boots here or Penitent Greaves, but Flicker Step just felt really nice to have. Bow, the faster attack speed feels really nice, and when we're just trying to reposition, we don't want to get caught in the rapid fire animation for too long. As for stats, go for Dex, All Stat, Vulnerable Damage, Crit Damage, and for the aspect, I went with Repeating Volleys as it helps a ton with clear. For the melee weapons, on one hand, go for Condemnation. This fills up all the combo points provided by T100 Will and allows you to shoot a ridiculous amount of arrows. For the other hand, you have a few options. Ashira is a strong choice, giving you attack speed and lucky hit chance, allowing for Victimize to proc more often. If you're wanting some more damage, go for a sword with Dex, All-Stat, Crit Damage, and Vulnerable Damage with Edge Master's aspect. And if you're wanting to be more tanky, use Doombringer if you have it. And lastly, the jewelry. For the amulet, you want to get one with movement speed, armor percent, cooldown reduction, and ranks to weapon mastery with the aspect of disobedience. For the rings, on both of them, you want to get crit chance, lucky hit chance, vulnerable damage, and life with the aspects accelerating and expectant. And this season's mechanic, the Vampiric Powers. So we're going to be using Metamorphosis to turn our evade into a mini dash and giving us 4 seconds of unstoppable. Moonrise and Ravenous for the extra attack speed they provide. Prey on the Weak for the extra damage against vulnerable. And lastly, Undying. Since we don't really have any life sustain outside of our potion in this build, this is really important to have. And finally, the Paragon Boards. So starting with the board order, we go from the starting board to the Cunning Stratagem board, moving on to the Tricks of the Trade board, going up to the No Witnesses board, and then finishing up by going over to the right to the Exploit Weakness board. For the glyphs, we're using Infusion, Exploit, Ranger, Control, and Combat. For the legendary notes, Cunning Stratagem to shoot those extra arrows with our combo points, and No Witnesses to get that ultimate damage applied to all of our skills after activating Shadow Clone. However, if you're not using Flicker Step boots or don't want to use Shadow Clone at all, I would get rid of all these points here. You could swap out the No Witnesses board for the Cheap Shot board, going into Cheap Shot, or you could just take out the No Witnesses node and put it over here to the Exploit Weakness. And that pretty much sums up the Paragon boards. As normal, there will be links in the description for the D4Builds, so you can follow these closely. I just want to talk about a few things you can do to optimize your boss damage. You definitely don't need to make any changes as the boss damage is already really good, but there are some things you can do to really get through those boss materials faster. First up, we have the gear changes. For the gloves, you can swap these out for the Grasp of Shadow gloves. These gloves give you a chance at spawning a Shadow Clone that mimics your attack, and if your main cast of Rapid Fire procs Victimize, so will the arrows shot from the spawn Shadow, dealing an insane amount of damage. Next, swap your amulet out for Banished Lord Talisman. After spending 300 energy, it guarantees your next core skill to overpower and giving 120% multi on those overpower crits, which you can set up for. Pair these all together with your Shadow Clone ultimate, and if everything activates all together, you're shooting out 90 plus arrows, all procting Victimize with overpowered crits, and you'll melt every boss with ease. As for the skill changes, the only thing I can think of is picking up Concealment with the Countering Concealment node, making it so your attack out of Concealment is always a crit. So you can pre-stack the 300 energy and combo points, and when the boss spawns, activate your Shadow Clone, evade to get the crit multi for Rapid Fire, dash through the boss to get another crit multiplier, and use Concealment, then Rapid Fire, and it should take care of any boss in one attack. And that pretty much sums up this build guide. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me on these build guides, and if you have any questions on the build, comment below and I'll do my best to answer. I have a ton more builds planned to make and upload, so if you don't want to miss out on those, leave this video a like and subscribe. That's all for today. Remember to have fun and take care.